Hey everyone, it's Rob. Welcome back. We are going into the year of 1978, and as I was going through this year, I started developing another stack of movies to go through with you guys, and it just kind of reiterates, and I'll say it a million times that the 70s was the best era of film, and it doesn't matter if it's horror, suspense, comedies, um, whatever genre you want to think of. I think the 70s definitely dominate in the time of film. Um, I will work backwards once again to my favorite. It wasn't easy when I got to the end, but ultimately I went with what the criteria is, which one is the one I still watch the most, and that's what ended up getting the slight victory in this year. I will start 78 with the classic Deer Hunter, starring Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken, Meryl Streep. It's it's an unbelievable film. It is a mood film. It is pretty powerful, and it does, in my opinion, hold one of the most intense, um, crazy scenes in film history when Robert De Niro and Christopher Walken are playing Russian roulette in the Vietnamese prison camp. Um, I use it as an example in class all the time of behavior and truthfulness and acting, and it's probably one of the best scenes in that kind of category in film history. Next up is Heaven Can Wait, starring Warren Beatty and Julie Christie. Um, they had done several movies together. They had done Shampoo. Um, they had done a western together. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. But anyways, this is a remake of a 1941 film, Here Comes Mr. Jordan, and then later on was remade again, I think in 2001 with Chris Rock, called Down to Earth. But by far, this is the one to get, and it's another Paramount film that we are waiting for to get a Blu-ray release, and I'm hoping that happens soon. But a really, really, really good film. Great acting, great story, really good film. Next up is Superman the movie, starring Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder, and of course, uh, Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. Um, we talked a little bit about this movie in the OG versus sequel. Um, it is a really, really good film, and it's a really, really good start. And as you see the new Supermans that come out from DC, they can't quite live up to the way they did things in the 70s. And I think a lot of that has to do with the actors. The actors are much stronger in Superman the movie than they are in the movies today. And so, that is the power of these movies, is not only were they well done, well produced, well directed, etc., but they were also really well acted. So the next one here is Superman the movie. Next up, I'm not a big musical guy, but by far to me, the best musical ever done is Grease. And I think the reason is because the music is just a follow along to the movie and to the story. Whereas a lot of musicals I watch, the music is the story, is the stuff, and then the dialogue follows along from that, and I don't like that as much. But I also think that the chemistry between John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John is really, really strong, and then you add in, Stockard Channing, and you add in uh, can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head that played Kaneki, but he was really, really good, and he was really, really strong. When you are able to have that kind of chemistry once again with the actors. Jeff Conway, that's his name. Okay, so when you have that chemistry amongst the actors and actresses, it really creates the base of a really good film. And as we know, Travolta loves to dance, so you're getting a lot of real singing and dancing, and it's them. And to me, Grease is a timeless classic. All right, so we go down to my final two, and like I said, it was tough, but my runner up is going to be Animal House. And in the past segment where you saw my top comedies, Animal House finished number one. The reason for that is because it's 90% one take, and so you're getting the real moments. And when you get real moments, they're truthful, which makes them funny. They're not manufactured humor. It's real humor. And I think that's why Animal House really stands the test of time. Once again, the chemistry of the actors, Tim Matheson, John Belushi, etc. Karen Allen, who, is awesome. Um, but they don't really make comedies like this anymore. Comedies you see one time, they have funny moments and so on, but once you've seen them, it's not as funny anymore. This movie still is funny, and it has some great moments. And fortunately for us, John Landis was able to capture all of these moments on film and give it to us, which capsules this for a lifetime. So my runner-up for 78 is going to be Animal House, which means number one is the classic John Carpenter's Halloween. Um, Once again, I said that I watch this movie the most. I watch it every Halloween night, every year. I just I never get tired of it. I actually have three versions of it. I have this one. I have an anniversary edition, and then in the top corner there, I have the box set of all the Halloween films, and I have another version of it in there. Um, it's classic because it's creative, and it's kind of like Jaws in the sense that the idea of the shark makes the movie more suspenseful and scary. Halloween, the idea of Michael Myers makes the movie suspenseful and scary. He doesn't speak. He just moves. And what's cool about this is in this movie, Nick Castle was the shape of Michael Myers, and did not come back to be Michael Myers again until this new reboot with the new Halloween movie that was released a couple years ago, and he is going to be in the new one, Halloween Kills, coming up, and then next year's Halloween Ends. And I think when you really watch these new movies, the thing that's cool about it is you see the movements of the original Michael Myers because it's Nick Castle, and I think that brings an element to the movie that makes it chilling. It's filmed on the streets of Pasadena right here, and there's still the locations you can go up to and see where this movie was filmed. And there's just such an authenticity to, the locations and the shots. And, of course, young Jamie Lee Curtis, as Laurie Strode, really is second to none. She's terrific in it. Her mom, of course, was in Psycho, so they have a family run of being in a couple of the greatest horror suspense films of all time. But for me, this one is number one in 78 because I love Halloween. I love the holiday. I love the movie. I love the story. I love the character of Michael Myers, and it never gets old for me. I could watch it over and over and over again. So if you have not seen the original, check it out. On the music side for this year, I'm going to talk about a couple. What I want to talk about is the Clash's "Give 'Em Enough Rope," which is actually their second release. I didn't talk about their first release yesterday. 1977, The Clash was phenomenal. Was not released in the States, though, till 79. "Give 'Em Enough Rope" was released first in the States in 78. So even though it was really their second album, it was the first release in the States. And this is a really strong, hard punk rocker, and check it out. Another one I wanted to point out is Stained Class by Judas Priest, probably my favorite Judas Priest album as a whole. This is where they're going from more of their bluesy rock sound to more of a stronger heavy metal rock sound. And they're the first. In England in the early 70s, you had Sabbath and you had the one guitarist, and Judas Priest took that to the next level by having the dual guitarist and getting that high low melody going in the guitar. So where Sabbath had that strong thick sound, Judas Priest was evolving into more of a melodic sound in their guitar playing, which kind of made them unique. And this album really is the connection of all of that. This is their fourth album, but to me, it's their strongest as a whole. And there's some great ones before and after, don't get me wrong, but I really love Stained Class. But at number one is AC/DC's Power Age. Yes, once again, they had Let There Be Rock and Highway to Hell. No, Highway to Hell comes after. High Voltage was earlier. But once again, going song for song, I think this is the album that really, kind of like what I was just saying about Judas Priest, kind of put everything together. And what's cool about it is that even they talk about how, to them, this was the album they really wanted to make a rock album. You know, once again, they kind of have a bluesy sound to them. You know, heavy metal comes from one area or the other. They either come from a style of blues or they come from a style of classical. And I think that I lean towards more of the classical style of metal, but I do really, really like a few of these bands like Judas Priest and AC/DC. They come from more of the blues side of rock and roll and metal. And I mean, this one, you know, from the standpoint of Sin City, I mean, one of the greatest AC/DC songs of all time, Riff Raff, Rock and Roll Damnation, Down Payment Blues, Dawn Shooting. You hear these songs in movies, and AC/DC is one of those bands that has kind of stood the test of time. They have their way, their sound, and they go with it. And to me, their best is 1978's Power Age. You've probably checked out a bunch of the other ones, but this is the one to really check out. All right? So for 78, we've got Halloween and we got AC/DC. Stay tuned tomorrow to see what we got for 1979. See you then.